As lawmakers prepare for the 2016 legislative session, House Speaker Greg Hughes says there's a zoning issue that will be of key interest to Utah cities and towns. It involves drug rehabilitation centers that are popping up in neighborhoods everywhere.
Cities are unable, because of the Americans with Disability Act, to zone or to prohibit these rehabs from coming in, rehab centers into a home. It could be a house right next to in your neighborhood.
Drug rehabilitation centers are protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Cities have little authority to regulate where they go, and neighbors have little recourse when a single-family home next door morphs into a house for numerous residents at a time, where multiple cars park, large groups often meet, and turnover can be more frequent than at a ski rental property. While there are zoning ordinances for all kinds of permitted uses in a city, a different standard applies, according to Speaker Hughes, for drug rehab centers.
They can literally create any house, residential house, in any neighborhood in Utah and make it a drug rehab center, and that impacts its neighborhood. And in the cities where they've tried to deal with that through zoning and ordinances have lost in court.
Speaker Hughes says lawmakers will approach this problem from another angle.
If you go upstream, there's some bad practices that are happening under the banner of drug rehab centers. And what happens is, and we've found this out in our healthcare reform task force, that there's some abuses in terms of Medicaid reimbursement for, say, drug tests. So you could have people that live in this home. Let's take the home that's next to you in your neighborhood or next to me, and you could put 3 people per room. And take your downstairs area and put more bedrooms in there, and for every person that would reside there, Medicaid reimburses for the drug test at a very, very high rate. And you can have a system where you would test an individual up to 3 times a week. The amount of dollars that could be collected through Medicaid for those tests are astronomical. They don't even have to provide counseling. This could be a safe haven. You could say, for the drug addicted, you come here, and if you agree to be tested 3 times a week, you can live here uninterrupted, and you could have as many people as you can that want to live there. As we've heard from people with even within the drug treatment community and their association, they believe that some of this is bordering on fraud, that this isn't really helping people that may find themselves addicted to drugs. And so we think on a state level, we can start looking at some of the licensing issues and some of the requirements needed to avoid fraudulent reimbursements of Medicaid, but also looking at the licensing and best practices so that the demand maybe to see these houses in neighborhoods become drug rehab centers are not as popular, because we're clamping down on some of the abuses that are verifiable and going on throughout the state.
He calls it an end run on a real problem that will affect every city and town in our state. If legislation is passed to clamp down on drug testing abuse in neighborhood drug treatment centers, Speaker Hughes believes Utah neighborhoods are going to see a very positive outcome. With a look at the 2016 Utah legislative session, I'm Susan Wood for the Utah League of Cities and Towns.